The Toronto Maple Leafs are making moves as Joseph Woll has been recalled from the Toronto Marlies, and he could be looking to make his debut very soon. So break that down in this episode of Leafs Digest, as well as a new trade target has been revealed for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's one that you might not be expecting. So stay tuned for all that in this episode of Leafs Digest. But before we do, quick reminder, hit the subscribe button. About 80% of you who are watching are not subscribed. Your guys' support has been unbelievable, especially in the last video. We gained over 100 subscribers from that, so thank you for your support, and we're on the road now to 7,000. So make sure to hit that button. Now, Darius, let's get right into it. We have some stuff to go over today, and the Leafs are making moves as they have officially recalled Joseph Woll a bit sooner than I expected. I expected a couple days from now. Elliot Friedman came out on his 32 Thoughts podcast and said he was trending upwards, as we know. But as from Leafs PR today, the Maple Leafs have recalled Joseph Woll from his conditioning loan with the Toronto Marlies. Now, what are your thoughts on that? I'll get into the actual full update here in a second, but just in general, he's back and he's ready to go.
Yeah, it's great to see. I think I could speak for everyone when I say we were getting a little scared. He was out a lot longer than we thought. Originally it was supposed to be the All-Star break, and obviously it's been a month since then, or roughly a month. So it's nice to see him back. He was playing so well before he got injured. Really devastating injury to get to, especially as a goalie. So to see him back and putting up the numbers he did this weekend too. He had a great weekend with the Marlies, so that was really nice to see too. So I wonder if he gets into game action as soon as tomorrow. I'm not sure if that's the case. They play on Thursday against the Coyotes. Coyotes are not doing well, so that might be a better game to get him into. But this is great for the Leafs, to see what he's got right out of injury with Ilya Samsonov, who's been playing great. And like we've talked about a little bit, I think it's Martin Jones who's the odd man out. And with the Marlies.
Yeah, Martin Jones is definitely the one who's out. You look at his stats. You mentioned his one game with the Marlies. He did very well, only put up a 1 goals against average in his one game. But you look at his season so far this year, 2.8 goals against average. That injury was horribly timed for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Horribly timed for him, especially to see such a young player. And to have him back is good. Now, you kind of mentioned it a little bit there. This dropped a few minutes ago, about an hour ago, from David Alter saying there's no update on when Woll will be activated. Keefe says he has no problem carrying 3 goalies, but notes it'll be up to Brad Treliving to make that call. I cannot imagine they're going to be carrying 3 goalies, but the thing is do they trust Joseph Woll fresh off injury? Obviously, he had his one game with the Marlies more than they trust Martin Jones, who hasn't been great recently. He had this hot start with the Leafs, but he's been serviceable. And obviously, Ilya Samsonov is the 1A right now, which is hilarious because we've probably had 3 different 1A goalies throughout the whole year. It's rotated between Samsonov, Jones, and Woll there for a little bit. But I think at this point, that's the big question is, do they trust Joseph Woll? Because they're on an absolute hot streak right now. Do they even want to risk putting him out there very soon? Or maybe they could kind of groom him back into it with a game against the Coyotes, like you mentioned, who are very, very bad, quite frankly, especially offensively. What do you think they're going to do here? No way. Maybe they carry 3 goalies to see what they have with Joseph Woll, but that requires some subsequent moves. It's an interesting one here. That's the big question now, is what they do with everyone.
Yeah, they sent down Max Lajoie, so I think that they are able to keep 3 goalies up. I'm not exactly sure how that works going into this week, but I think for the time being they can. But I think that was the whole situation with them sending him back to the Marlies to have that last weekend with the Marlies and play a game, was to shake off the rust, coming back into game actions. One thing to practice after an injury, it's another thing to play, right? So he had a great, like I said, game with the Marlies on the weekend, and now he's back with the Leafs. I'm not sure if you want to feed him to the Golden Knights. I know they handled the Golden Knights last week, but I'm not sure if you would want to give Samsonov that start and then ease him in against the Coyotes. But in terms of trust, where I am at with it, I trust him coming in. I think he's going to be fine, especially after what we saw with the Marlies this weekend. I think he's going to come right back in and be exactly like himself from before the injury, which was great. Like you said, it was terribly timed, but I have trust in him unless we see otherwise, right? So I don't know if it has to do with skill or anything like that. I think it's just a contract thing and age. Of course, Joseph Woll is technically the starter. So Martin Jones, I think, is just the odd man out. But we'll wait and see what they do, because I think for the time being, at least this week, they're going to keep all 3 up.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. Maybe they just ride the 3, see what they do with that, and see how Jones performs, which should be fine. But let's move on now to a trade target that's been revealed that we haven't really discussed yet on this channel. It's a winger from the Washington Capitals of all teams here, and this dropped a different report. I believe it was David Pagnotta. He said that apparently Washington is taking calls on Mantha from Treliving, so you can thank me for letting his dad know who we think is a fit. So the big thing here is a shout out to this Twitter account. He's an interesting one. Anthony Mantha, 29 years old. He would be a bit of a depth guy for the team. team. Obviously, he put up 29 points. He's not going to be a huge. I mean, he's a goal scorer. He has 18 goals in 52 games. But I'm curious to see what kind of package the Leafs would have to give up for a guy like this. It's obviously not a defenseman. I know we've still yet to acquire the Leafs. Sorry, not we have still yet to acquire a defenseman. They're in on Tanev. They're in on maybe in on Hannafin. Probably not. What are your thoughts on Anthony Mantha of the Washington Capitals? A new guy we've yet to discuss on this channel, and he's played a lot of games this year, and he's doing quite well. Could fit in on maybe the third line there, depending where you think you put him.
There's been a lot of discourse this weekend on Twitter because of Rempe coming in and fighting a lot from the New York Rangers. And this is a guy who, doesn't shy away from dropping the gloves and playing physical. And he's a big boy, too. Like, the Leafs could really use a player like this. So there's been a lot on Twitter about, the Leafs could use this player and he might be available because, the Caps wouldn't mind shedding some salary and getting rid of guys that don't fit their window, right? So I think it would be a very interesting pickup. Now, in saying that, I think the Leafs still need to focus on defense and right-handed shot defensemen, most notably. So I think that's the number one priority. But if you do want to upgrade, I don't think this is a bad upgrade. I don't think it's going to cost you a lot. We haven't heard too much about what it might cost. There's obviously a lot of names out there. We've heard what teams want in return. We haven't heard too much about Mantha, but he chips in for goals here and there. On the Washington Capitals, who are not a great team, he's had a pretty decent season. So another guy you could add to the Leafs lineup with, Bertuzzi and Domi playing the way they are right now, he would fit in very nicely. And, it would be a nice fit, but I just don't know if he would fit the way the Leafs are playing right now because the way their lineup's shaping up. Tavares now dropped down to the third C. Domi's on second C, and the lines are all rolling. They're playing really well. They've won the most games in a row in like 20 years or something like that. So I'm not sure exactly how he would fit in, but I think he could help the team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And again, they don't have a second round pick. They're not going to give up their obviously not going to give up the first round pick for him. So maybe it would be a combination of some later round picks, or maybe who knows what the Capitals would want because he's still a valuable player. And I know there's a lot of teams out there who would be willing to get it. But I mean, you mentioned it. The Leafs are playing so well right now. Internally, whether it's McMahon, whether it's all these guys are having great seasons, especially, and even Ben Weil, throw up the train back here. He's playing great defensively, and I don't know. The team is very fun to watch. They're playing very well, and I don't know how much they want to shake this up now, which could be a bit of a worrisome if you're a fan who wants a big move to happen, because maybe this makes... I mean, you could either say in two ways, Brad Shilling, this will make him want to go more all in, or he doesn't really want to shake up. I think the defensive core needs a change in the sense of they can need an upgrade. They don't necessarily need a change, but I don't know. I saw this, and you sent it to me here. The Leafs trade deadline is their own players getting good, and that's what's happened the past 10 games, especially regarding the forwards and the wingers and the centers and the kind of the offensive side of the ice there, but the defense could still use a little bit of work. I wouldn't mind trading for a defense, and I just don't know if I'd even want anything to mess up what the Leafs have right now, even if it would be a net positive asset, no matter what the trade is. I just don't know if Brad Living want to shake that up at all, which might not make the most sense, but I think, I don't know, they have a really good thing going right now.
That's the thing, and I've been thinking this past week, and I hate to make the comparison, a direct comparison, but it was around this time last year that the Florida Panthers started playing their best hockey, and they started really getting hot, and they made the playoffs by 1 point. They were well out of the playoffs around this time last year, and they went into the playoffs as the hottest team right around the time that the Leafs are heating up to this year, and they didn't make too many moves. Not too many moves. There was a lot of around the edges moves, right? But they really relied on everyone internally. So I wonder if that's the route the Leafs want to go. Now, that being said, we've talked about it. They do need a right shot defenseman. They need it, right? So I think that's something they're still looking at and will probably happen. But in terms of everything else, they're playing their best hockey of the season so far, and they're doing things that we've wanted them to do for a long time. So I'm not sure if you want to shake it up at this point.
Yeah, and I don't know if they will, just because of... I mean, realistically, giving up assets for the Leafs to win the Cup, they needed their guys. We spoke about it at the start of the season, or even for them to be contenders. We needed the Austin Matthews, Nylander, all these other guys to step up. McMahon has been one of the biggest ones. So adding one of those guys for picks or whatever it takes, a prospect, probably isn't something, unless it would have been a guy like maybe Sean Monahan or something like that who's already gone now. So I think ultimately, Darius, I think the consensus is just add a blue liner, a right-handed shot defenseman, and the Leafs should be good to go, because whether they go far or not will ultimately be up to the core they had now for however many years, who have yet to win multiple playoff series. They did win their first one last year. But any quick final thoughts before I wrap up? It's a good time to be a Leafs fan, which is the first time saying that in a little bit.
They have a chance to win 8 games in a row, and I don't even know the last time that happened. I think it was the 90s or something like that. I think it was the 90s, actually, like 93 or something, 94, which is great. I mean, it's awesome. It's a good time to be a Leafs fan right now, because they're starting to do things, like I said, that fans have been asking for a long time. They're playing the way we've envisioned them to play and that we want them to play in the playoffs. And a lot of guys like Bertuzzi scored a hat trick. They're getting hot. So I think that's something to look forward to too. They're gelling at the right time. Whether it was the Riley thing or not, I don't know. That's up for discussion as well. Maybe a different video, but they are playing their best hockey of the season and at a good time because playoffs are coming.
I was going to call. I gave credit to Bobby McMahon. I should have said Tyler Bertuzzi as well. He's also definitely been in there after we made his video calling him out a little bit a couple weeks ago. But that'll wrap it up. Let's know what your thoughts are on this, and if you're happy that Joseph Woll is back. Hopefully we'll have more clarity on that over the coming days, and I suspect that we will, specifically regarding what they're going to do with their goalie tandem now that has 3 goalies, so it's a goalie trio. But that'll wrap it up. If you want to check out a video from yesterday, click on your screen now. We'll see you tomorrow.